Thank you. We're gonna hop over to a phase 2 update. Also, yes, the meeting is recorded. We do use it for notes and for folks who want to review it later online. So if you missed anything today, you can still view it online. Before we start with Erica in phase 2, I just want to let you all know we'll take questions when prompted, also at the end of the section, just because it is a lot of content. So I want to give Erica some time so that she can go over it with you all, and then we'll hear from you all. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We've been talking about our cost savings efforts over the last several months, and wanted to just take a step back and remind us all of the framework and the guardrails around the effort that we've been working through. All of the cost saving work that we've been doing is around this framework here on the screen, preserving the project definition, which is a 4-station project with a single bore tunnel and a maintenance facility. We want to maintain our environmental commitments. We want to minimize impacts to our schedule, changing our schedule, and maintain our opening day. So around this framework, we have built on it with guardrails. What the cost savings effort, the ideas, concepts that we've looked at do not require a change to our record of decision. So no supplemental environmental document needed. There's no additional significant risks that would increase costs while considering the impacts. And we're collaborating and incorporating feedback we've heard here in community working groups, as well as from our board members and other avenues that we're engaging. And then the last edge of our framework here is the 3 program considerations that we've been working through. You've heard me talk about these before. So looking to achieve cost savings to align our project with available funding, working to ensure we have a contractor who can build our project within the budget that we have. And then we're working on our path to signing the full funding grant agreement with the Federal Transit Administration before we award the major tunneling contract, which is the construction of the tunnel. So first, we're going to talk through cost savings and where we are. So in August of last year, once we heard the great news from the Federal Transit Administration that they've committed nearly $5.1 billion to our project, which we were very excited about, but was not as much as we had requested. We've embarked on this cost savings effort. So through the end of last year, we have come up with level 1. We evaluated level 1, so took everything that we could possibly come up with, and then moved to level 2 and then level 3. So we're going to talk through these a little bit more. So our goal is to ensure resiliency to market conditions. So we're trying to look for more savings than we would potentially need. Some of these cost savings have required cross-disciplinary review, and so we've pulled together some task forces, and we've closely collaborated with BART. So in level 1 that we talked about last year, we identified approximately $350 million. The guiding principles for level 1 were to stay within the framework and the guardrails. We initially focused on station refinements and criteria requirements variances with BART, all while maintaining a safe plan. What we landed on, you see on the screen there, we converted the parking garage at the 28th Street Little Portugal station to be surface parking. We made some refinements to the station design without affecting the passenger experience, and looked at providing some of the materials ourselves. Some ideas that we started to analyze in level 1 needed more consideration and cross collaboration, so they got moved into what we call level 2, where we pushed the guardrails slightly and developed task forces to take a deeper dive. So we looked at concurrent tunneling from the east while we're tunneling from the west. That's something that we've talked about with you all before, and since we last met, it was determined that based on the exact scenario that was looked at in level 2, it wasn't going to achieve the cost or schedule savings we were looking at. So that concept has moved into level 3, which questions the criteria more. So I'll get more into that in a minute. We looked at reconfiguration of the New Hall Yard facility in a change of layout there, which has resulted in the ability to remove the parking garage at the Santa Clara station and provide surface parking. We looked at the interior tunnel reconfiguration as well as a couple of other items. So between levels 1 and level 2, we found a little over 400 million. So we have more work to do. So before I get into level 3 and advancing, wanted to see if anyone has any questions on the process today.
What is that reconfiguration of the Santa Clara station? Is it, I know that there's a graphic up here. Is that changed at
So
all?
it's the change of layout of the facilities within the yard. It changes to that. And
So a station means on and beyond just the
not there's
user
not changes
experience.
to the station, there's changes to the yard.
Got
which,
it.
because of the changes to the yard, allows the parking for the station to be on a surface lot versus in a garage.
I see.
That's the change. So there's very slight refinement to the station itself.
The actual.
Yeah. It's mostly within the main facility.
Thank
Facility with that.
And that still allows for the adequate maintenance of the park cars and everything.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so level 3, knowing that, we had hoped to achieve all of our savings in level 1, and we've gotten to this point, we're really challenging ourselves to come up with creative solutions to determine what will get us the most cost savings, what are the main drivers of the cost. So the tunnel size is one of the main drivers of the cost. And so in level 3, our guiding principles are that we're not going to compromise on safety. We're looking at creative solutions. We're coming up with ideas that at this point, we've determined, we understand that getting to this point, needing to go to level 3, it's going to take more time to evaluate the concepts. So what we've come up with in level 3 thus far is just analysis, and it's going to take a while to get to a recommendation, which I'll talk through that process in a minute. But we're analyzing ideas that have been, we have previously studied, either if there's a change, to see if there's a change in technology that would make them viable, or lessons learned from other industry projects that have occurred. We've also heard some ideas from the Federal Transit Administration's project management oversight contractor and our VTA BART phase 2 oversight committee subject matter expert Bob Zeidler. So the task force is looking at
I'll wait till
the tunnel diameter as a cost driver to reduce the cost. The tunnel diameter matters in that the larger the diameter, the more material there is to excavate, and also the larger the diameter, changes the pace of tunneling that can occur. So by reducing the size of the tunnel, then that's potentially something to explore to achieve more cost savings. So we pulled together a technical task force, a tunneling task force, to revisit old assumptions and question the criteria and continue to look at items. So our task force is made up of the oversight committee subject matter expert, Bob Zeidler, as well as VTA staff and members of our program management team, engineering consultant team, and construction management team, who are experts in the local ground condition, as well as tunneling and construction, as the local ground condition comes into play in a significant way when you're determining that tunneling will work in that specific area. So our process for level 3 is that the task force is currently meeting, identifying and evaluating technical feasible options for the tunnel. I'm not going to walk through those options here today, as they're farther away from you, where you all are in the city of San Jose. But after we continue and complete our technical feasibility, we're going to determine the cost, the construction risk and schedule, and what the impact is to the public, and have a peer review with the Federal Transit Administration, as well as our industry stakeholder partners who have gone through similar projects and then determine our next steps. And by having a smaller diameter tunnel in short changes how the stations are constructed. And so those are things that we're looking at as part of this exercise. So we don't have the answers yet. We know what things we're looking at, but we're not done with the process. Moving on to the next program consideration, making sure that we can work with a contractor who can build within our budget. We have pulled together a contracting task force. I've been talking with you all about that, providing updates. They're looking at those 3 items in parallel with our cost savings effort. This timeline here we talked through cost savings on the top. The task force has been looking at contract packaging and changes to that delivery approach. We've been doing some industry market sounding, meeting with several large tunneling contractors to ask questions and figure out ways that we can right-size our project to have them be able to build within our budget. At the same time, we've been working with our contractor, CWG trailer, to review the cost estimate. In a progressive design build model, they come on they're hired based on qualifications, and then before you get to stage, what I called earlier, stage 2, when we start to build the tunnel, that's a firm fixed price. So there's a period of time we negotiate the price to get there. And during that time, before you get to stage 2, within the progressive design build model, there's this opportunity for an off ramp, where you can choose to change fully or partially off ramp the contractor. And so we're evaluating building a plan for various options. And so there will be a decision on that next month in June. Because that's a way to control costs as well. And then as far as moving on our path towards a full funding grant agreement, we have ongoing coordination with our FTA and project management oversight consultant. We have regular check-ins and are working closely with them, evaluating ideas that they've come up with. That, I will take any questions. I think Christian, there's one on one.
Yes, folks in person, do you want to go first? Mhm.
The tunnel boring machine is, we purchased it, and is it sitting around now in some warehouse that's, we're having to pay? I mean, there's all these costs that just continue to go up because we are not progressing. I mean, is that being compensated for somehow? Or, I mean, is all our money that we have stored up for the project, getting at least 5% interest or something to keep up with inflation?
So the tunnel boring machine is currently being fabricated in Germany.
Oh, okay.
And then once it's done being fabricated, it will be stored there until we're ready to ship it here and assemble it here to launch the machine. If for some reason we don't end up moving forward with using it and we use it away, they're looking at different tunneling, so still using a larger machine, with a smaller machine. Then we would, if that's the case, then we would look at working with the manufacturer to purchase some of the parts out of it. Yeah.
So if you change the size of the tunnel, you have to modify the machine itself, the boring machine.
Right. Well, you wouldn't be able to just modify it. You'd be able to pull some parts from it to use, but you wouldn't be able to reuse it.
That's got to be after, let's say tomorrow they went ahead and finished the machine. And it's going to take a couple of months, I would suspect, to ship it over here and get it actually physically in the new hall yard. So we're
Right.
still,
It would take a while, but until the machine is launched, it needs to be serviced monthly. And so by leaving it there and storing it there, then the manufacturer and enough staff can service it more easily than flying them out here once a month to service it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'm just saying is how far away we are from actually breaking ground.
So we've already broken ground. We're starting the construction of the launch structure, and we can
Oh,
try to get in
that's
touch
right.
with you to
The launch structure.
have a meeting with your community. So there is construction work happening. We're working on that currently, but we're not quite ready for the machine to be here yet. So
Yeah,
that's why it's gonna.
I forgot about the walls that help, for that number.
And Frank is gonna talk about that more in just a minute.
Okay.
We had an online question, which was with no end of line parking structure, are daily trips being revised down from the Santa Clara station? How is parking being modeled in the surrounding area?
So there's no change in the plan for parking spaces provided. They're just being provided in a surface lot instead of in a parking garage. So that we'd still be providing 500 parking spaces as was always planned. They will just be in a surface lot rather than a garage.
Are there any other questions online? You can either use a raise hand function to ask, unmute and ask, or you can type it into the chat. All right, seeing no questions, we shall move on to Brent with the construction update.
Okay, hi everyone, Brent Purse, Interim Deputy Director of External Affairs. Thanks for your time this evening. Since we are under construction very much in your community, we wanted to give you an update tonight, kind of where we're at and what's to come in the coming months. So just to zone everyone in, we're going to be focusing primarily on the West Portal and New Hall Yard area where we're under active construction now. It's on the west side of our project, kind of, obviously behind the airport, behind Cape Hall Park. So just to kind of orient everyone, you've probably seen this slide a lot, but we like to make sure everyone's honed in on the same place. On the right side of the graphic, we have Brokaw Road. On the bottom of the graphic, we have Coleman. And kind of on the left side, going up and down, we have New Hall Drive near Cape Hall Park. So north-ish is kind of to the bottom of this graphic, pointing at the airport here. So this will eventually be the maintenance facility for the extension, but right now is our most active construction area on the project. What we're showing you here are some things that are to be built in the future. So this is where we will be building tunnel lining segments for the tunnel. So there will be eventually a factory that will be built here. This will be also one of the primary locations where we take the soil, or muck as we call it, out of the tunnel, dry it, dispose of it, and haul it off the site. So there'll be a facility we call a muck bin. It's a very fancy word for a dirt bin, to store that. And right now, our contractor has really been ramping up and mobilizing to actually build the launch structure. So the launch structure is the actual box or facility that will launch the tunnel boring machine. So it's essentially a large box up here in the top left corner, and kind of that, depends on who you ask, turquoise, cyan, greenish, blue color. It's a fairly long structure.
Whereabouts is it?
So it is on kind of the top left there. I'll point for you.
Yeah.
The pointer doesn't work.
I didn't see it.
It does, but it doesn't work on the screen. So,
Oh.
and then Nan, if you could highlight that for the folks online there.
Doesn't work on the screen.
Yeah. So this structure
Oh, there it is.
is
Sorry. Okay, very good.
over 100 feet deep at its deepest. And inside the box, there will be a large ramp. And that is the ramp that will eventually also have the tracks built on it. So during construction, it will be used to bring materials, our workforce, power the TBM, and actually eventually launch the TBM. And then after the tunnel is built, it will be used for the tracks once the tracks are laid in the tunnel, so that the tracks can come back up to grade and enter the station in Santa Clara. So we have a lot of larger equipment on the site that you'll start to see arriving. It is, they are starting to do a lot of the preliminary excavation for the walls and support structures for this. And let's keep moving forward. John, it looked like you had a question, so I'll pause.
So there's these changes to the station, and
Yes.
Erica laid out that it's not necessarily for the user experience, but in the actual maintenance facility. Has the portal or the hole where the trains are coming out of changed since, you had a nice graphic up here, which was great. I don't know what happened to it, but has it changed since then, the actual location of the hole?
It hasn't specifically changed, no. So the structure is designed for the machine that we have procured from Heron Connect in Germany, which is 53 feet. Should some of the cost savings identify maybe a smaller machine, the structure is large enough or flexible enough to have some design, the design of it modified. So as it's being built, there is a point in the future where we could make a decision to make some changes to the structure moving forward if we need to.
My main concern is, where all that loud noise is gonna be coming out. Initially, it was a little closer to 880, and then, for my neighborhood, it switched a lot, closer to unfortunately, from Santa Clara University, dorms over there, and so I just wanted to know if that had changed.
So-
It
So
hasn't changed.
The position of the structure
That's
has
all I'm
not,
asking.
has not
Okay,
changed,
yeah, it's
yeah.
not changed.
Okay,
At all.
based on your comments, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it has not changed.
Got it. That's all I wanted.
Where is the spot? Can you point to it?
Yeah, this is like added the sound curtain that extends from it to the
Yeah.
right. So there's a smaller box at the very left end that you can see it's the actual portal.
So this section right here is kind of the portal, the part where the trains will enter daylight, if you will, right? So they'll come out of the tunnel. This is a long structure, a shaft. Think of it like a bathtub, right? It has two very deep walls, but it's open on the top.
Okay.
And the ramp will rise through that structure as it comes to at grade and then eventually into the station near Brokaw. As Jonathan pointed out, we have this kind of dark gray line. That is our noise curtain or sound curtain that is being built to help deflect some of the noise, absorb some of the noise, and protect the three communities that we have here.
Would that sound curtain remain when the station is operational?
It is a construction mitigation measure.
So no, it's a temporary noise.
It's designed to protect folks primarily from the noise that the machines will be making. When those aren't present, the train will be down low in the structure, right, as it rises to the surface.
So it will still be generating noise. It's
It
just
will be,
where.
Normal part noise. Not construction.
Yeah, and if you've ever been to a BART tunnel, it's a living hell.
Yeah, I think that's why they have the giant U-shaped bathtub thing for that, because I mean, at normal grade level, it's not too bad, like over the Fremont station, stuff like that. But you're right, especially out by like the exit in Oakland because of the
Yeah.
screen.
You go to just south of Lake Merritt, and it's not fun at all.
Yeah. Is there any possibility of having that noise curtain move from a temporary to a more permanent structure to just prevent that kind of, at least for at some period of its length? Or is that what the kind of the U-shaped bathtub as you described is kind of designed for?
So our environmental document kind of identifies the temporary things we need to do to protect people against noise, and it also identifies the permanent things that we need to build from.
Okay.
And so our noise modeling hasn't identified any permanent sound walls or any additional need for other items here at this location. Unless, Greg, if there's anything I'm missing.
No, I don't, I think you're accurate. I think the source point of Caltrain trains are much closer to the properties. Those will generate more noise than BART trains would because of the distance.
Well, I think it's more of a funneling process where the air gets shoved through the tunnel when it comes out the end. It's comparing the two is
We'll have a gap though between the with the wall and the other stuff there, so. That might be something we need to go through and readjust as the, after it's built, we may need to add on.
There also is a barrier wall that kind of parallels the BART tracks between the BART alignment and the Caltrain alignment. So there will also be a mitigation measure. It's not necessarily a sound attenuation device, but it is a measure that will be a barrier wall.
define a wall. Is it gonna be out of concrete?
Yes.
How high?
I can get that for you, I'm not sure, but there's a very specific criteria related to the Union Pacific Railroad
Is that
tracks.
the existing one that's already there?
The noise is always a very popular topic, right? And as we have with one of our other working groups, we've also, I believe at 28th Street earlier this month, we decided, we could have a future noise topic just to kind of refresh what the environmental document says, kind of talk about noise in the context of the design. So if that's something interesting for the working group, we could put that on the work plan in the future.
Yeah, it's been a problem.
It's probably been a
an
couple-
issue for my neighborhood from day one. And all you have to do is go to the tunnel just south of Lake Merritt and
So we'll put that in our notes for a future item that we can bring to this group for sure.
yeah, and I would like to, I've signed in on my email. I'd like to be able to get, somebody's taking notes, some kind of email on information regarding the height of the solid concrete. You should,
We do have a comment online.
Got a comment online? Let's take a question online.
So we've got Matthew Bright, and he notes, please note the existing barrier wall is only 1 story tall, but residential is 2 to 3 floors. A
Yes.
barrier closer to the BART tracks will provide a better angle to mitigate noise to the sleeping floors, 2nd floor and 3rd floor.
Yes, so thank you for your comment, Matthew. So one of the reasons why the noise curtain is directly adjacent to where the construction work is happening is so it can deflect that noise sooner. The closer you put a wall to the generator of the noise, it operates as a better mitigation mechanism. So during construction, it helps deflect the noise or bounce or absorb some of the noise and lifts that up and over the 2nd and 3rd floor stories. That's how it's designed.
Any other
Okay.
questions and comments online? All right, go on, Ben.
All right. Another important thing for the communities around the work site is to understand kind of how our trucking activity will be operating during the construction of the launch structure, the future station, and really anything going on at Newhall Yard. So this is a tool we've been using to help kind of demonstrate our trucking plan as we've been meeting with stakeholders. So the majority of the trucking activity is identified to be using Newhall Drive next to PayPal Stadium. There's a lot less sensitive receptors, we would say, less residents at this location. So during most weekday operations, about 75% of the trucking activity will be using Newhall Drive and about 25% will be using Brokaw. During evening or nighttime work, which we are starting to get prepared for, and for weekend work, that will shift even more towards the Newhall Drive entrance. There are more residents near Brokaw, and there are more retail generators like Costco. There's a lot more traffic on the weekends closer to Brokaw, so we'll be using the Newhall entrance primarily during nighttime and weekend operations.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, is there any means of using the existing rail to move in and out material rather than trucking lines? It's literally next to the S&P lines.
Great question, Jonathan. So what we have studied and cleared to this point is primarily just the use of trucks.
Sure.
But we actually are kind of doing some other preliminary studies to see if we can work with Union Pacific to do some soil off-haul using their facilities.
Yeah,
But
I know that per load tends to be a little bit cheaper on rail as well, which might be a nice cost saver. So
I think it's worth distinguishing that right now, the trucking that we're talking about is trucking for construction of the portal.
Okay.
What Brent mentioned is for the trucking of the muck once tunnel operations are
Thank you for
actually beginning. So that will be a different amount of traffic that will be generated from the trucks than what is currently being done.
Could also be a potential future item, but we're very early in that process, so we don't really have enough information to even share. So bringing us back to construction, kind of what are we doing now? What are our working hours currently? We have been engaging with a lot of your communities to prepare for the night work that is to come. So we've been having individual meetings with like the college or with some of the neighborhood groups or HOAs in anticipation. What we thought was our night work to begin in May. We have had some delays in working to get our noise sound wall built and finishing our agreement with Union Pacific Railroad, but we're making good progress. And so I just wanted to reiterate that right now our working hours are 7 to 7, generally Monday through Friday. So over the last 2 months, we've been really mobilizing on the site. For those that live near the site, you can probably see some of the rigs. They're very tall. Some of them are 90, 100 feet tall that have been mobilized and doing some of kind of that preliminary work. We anticipate starting to build the noise curtain wall this month and in June, and then getting to the place where in June and July, we can begin doing more work during the nighttime hours. We're required to have that wall in place because that is really one of the primary mechanisms to help protect residents to do some of the nighttime operations that are needed to build the launch structure within the kind of 2-year window that we have.
How dynamic is that in terms of, there's always gonna be a certain percentage of people who are super sensitive to that at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's what, I mean, is there, when is the hotline going online, or maybe that's an upcoming topic?
Yeah.
To address people's concerns.
Yeah, so a couple things. Correct, yes. People are sensitive in different ways to noise. And generally most questions about noise requires kind of a personalized response, if you will. So depending on where someone lives next to the project, they may experience noise differently. But ultimately, we do have thresholds that we have to meet. So we're required to meet certain thresholds during the day, and then we have lower thresholds that we have to meet during the nighttime hours. We do have a hotline that our team can respond to right now during business working hours, and very shortly, we're working to have a hotline that is available 24/7. So if you do call at the nighttime, someone will be able to answer and then directly connect with our construction personnel on site to help address any complaints or concerns.
So 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of saying there's gonna be human being answering that phone.
That is the plan. Yes. That is our commitment.
The thresholds are over an average.
They are over
They're
an
not
average.
a single point threshold as
The
well.
usual, only in over a 24-hour period. You get a lot of spikes, but they get evened out on the average, and that's
Yes.
just the way.
So just to clarify, we have an 8-hour average for construction noise. So there are certain exceedances that are allowed within that 8-hour period, but the noise and how we in terms of how we assess the noise to meet our threshold, it's done over an 8-hour period.
And I think we went over at one point, the actual noise receptors are gonna be at the walls, along.
So we have noise monitors out there right now. I think we can get into a lot more detail about like what those thresholds are and how long we have to monitor when we come back and have like a noise specific.
Yeah, and just, I'm jumping ahead on page 34, upcoming engagement within Canto and Altura. I'm not saying we should go there, I'm just saying, I would suspect you better have a lot of your answers to those noise related stuff when you go meet with those, just as a heads up. I mean, that's probably their biggest concern is 3 o'clock in the morning.
Most definitely, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little more in a bit.
Yeah, or with them.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to, but I don't live in either of those 2 complexes, but
Yes.
I would suspect that's gonna be there.
You suspect very right.
Yeah. Understandably.
So we have been out in the community. We helped flyer some of the student villas a couple weeks ago. So we worked with the university, partnered with them so that students had notification of kind of work that's to come. We've been meeting with some of the other partners in the area. And for anyone else that wants a more customized presentation or us to come to you at your time and your space, just let us know. Anyone in the room here, happy to do that and have a similar presentation prepared. So there was a physical mailer that went out in March. And then we updated that through our monthly construction update as kind of our night hours didn't begin when we had anticipated. So I just want to be clear with you all that we sent out like a corrective notice several weeks ago. We'll be having a monthly construction update come out in about a week and a half. That will be a good look ahead for kind of what's to come in June. So if you're not receiving our monthly construction updates, we want to make sure that we get you all as community leaders subscribed so that you're receiving that. As John pointed out, our communities that are very close to the site will definitely have a lot of questions for us, our residents that live nearby. We met with the Encanto HOA, which is off Campbell Avenue this last week. We had a very similar presentation for them. They did have, of course, a lot of questions about noise. We were able to answer many of those, but we are going to be getting back to them with some additional details, similar to what we just talked about, right? What are those thresholds? How do we monitor? How long is it for? What is in the environmental document, so that we do have some follow-up for them. And we're anticipating, similar questions for the Orlo community, which is a new community that's just come online at Gateway Crossings. And we're trying to get a meeting with Altura on the books. We've been going back and forth with them for multiple months. And John just wanted to open the floor too, is you have a lot of involvement with the greater New Home neighborhood, and still open to the idea of doing something for the larger community as well. If you and Matthew, who's on the line, are still interested in doing that, we're happy to work with you. So,
A venue is just the issue.
yeah. Questions on construction, and then we just have one more short update for you.
My only comment would be congratulations, even talking to Altura Homeowners Association on the press, but I guess that's what you guys do is
Not for
external affairs.
not for
Yeah.
trying, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've gone through some type of HOA management change recently, but we have been in contact with them. It's just we've been trying to get a date scheduled.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm impressed.
We've also had a briefing with the San Jose Council District 6 office. So they've received similar information. We brought their team up to speed as well, just for all of their knowledge. That's what it's that.
We've got a hand raised from
Yes.
Matthew Bright.
Hi, just a question. Do we have a sense of whether there is I guess a physical barrier between the Caltrain tracks and the BART tracks, so that we can mitigate any additional train noise? I understand there's some FRA requirements when there are people within a certain distance of the heavy rail tracks. So is there any effort to try to mitigate that through physical barriers that they can't be crossed?
Thank you for your question, Matthew. I think the question is there a physical barrier separating BART from the heavy freight railroad?
Yes, there's a fence along the entire yard perimeter. So that will be a completely separate fencing criteria that will kind of keep the public outside of the entire yard facility. That's a security fence. So it's a kind of a tight mesh fence with some security provisions on top, cameras, etc. I also mentioned a barrier, essentially, that is adjacent to that trench structure that will separate the BART tracks from the Union Pacific tracks there. That's not the entire length. It's not along the entire length, but it is along the length of the corridor that has the trench area. But
Okay, and
fence, yeah, definitely a security fence around all the BART areas. There's actually probably 2 fences before you get to a BART track.
will that prevent the heavy rail users? So I'm talking Caltrain, Union Pacific, Capital Corridor, et cetera, ACE, from having to sound their horns for the safety of the folks that are working on the BART side of the project?
You're talking about during construction?
Correct.
No, none of everything I was describing was permanent fencing. I think there will be,
We currently have a fence up right now.
Yeah.
Separating our site from the railroad corridor.
yeah, there will be various activities that occur that are within the 25-foot boundary that that current is established for UP. I don't know exactly when they need to sound the train horn.
I think we will ask for you, Matthew.
Yeah, we can ask.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thanks. I mean, anything to mitigate that is obviously great because as of today, there's nobody in that zone, so we don't hear those horns. It'll be potentially, very different if those start to be sounded through the neighborhood.
Understood. Yeah, we'll
The tracks closest, the UP tracks closest to the facility where the construction is going to be happening are essentially storage tracks. They are utilized, but they are not where the UP and ACE trains are traveling on a daily basis.
And construction activity would be within the new hall right of way, not correct? We're not expecting to have workers
So,
on the UPRR.
so to build part of the noise curtain, we will be encroaching on part of the heavy rail corridor. So I don't think we have a specific answer for you, Matthew. So we'll need to check with our construction services team, and we'll mark this as an urgent priority to get back to you.
Okay,
Thanks.
so maybe you can wrap both of those questions, the height of the concrete wall, as well as Matthew's,
Happy to.
all in one, and distribute it to Matt and myself.
I think we'll get it out to the whole group here.
That whole group would be great.
We can mark that as an urgent. Anything else to add to that, Matthew?
No, I think that's all. I mean, everyone will be happy for the sake of the noise curtain. If if they need to blow the horn a few times while you're setting that up, no one's going to complain once the curtain's there. Thanks.
I don't want to commit UP to blowing or not blowing their horns, but we'll definitely get an answer because I'm sure.
For sure. I'm just saying for anything that we can do to mitigate that is going to be a plus, right?
Yep, understood.
Thanks.
All right. So wanted to give you all also a small update on our Thriving Business Program. I believe we briefly covered this in our last quarterly meeting with you. This is a program to help small businesses during construction. The three main elements of the program are our Eat Shop Local campaign. So this is a marketing campaign where we can partner with local businesses to help promote them through, social media, through emails, through partnerships, through signage. We have our Local Resources Network. This is a program to provide technical services or help businesses with other needs that they may have. We also intend to partner with other community-based organizations to help maybe deliver some of these services and really promote growth during the construction project. So businesses may need, marketing support or assistance with permits with the city. This is a program that could help provide them some of those services that are maybe outside their day-to-day needs. And then the third element is direct financial assistance for businesses that are going to be impacted by some of our major construction activities. So these are businesses generally located near the core parts of the construction. So our station areas, our yard, and where our portals are located. They may have the opportunity to have some direct financial assistance through a grant. Okay. We've been making some progress on this program over the last couple months. We've been making with some of our city partners to help gather some data of businesses and create a really good kind of baseline for our team, where our business is located, what type of businesses are they, how many employees do they have. Remember, this is a program really designed for small businesses, so businesses with 35 or less employees, and there will be some type of revenue limit likely to participate. So you can't make $50 million a year, even if you have 3 employees, right? There will be a limit for participants. We've gotten feedback from you all. So if you did provide feedback a couple months ago on some of the program materials and the survey that we're working on, thank you for providing our team feedback. And then we also, similar to this working group, we have a group that we meet with 2 to 3 times a year called our small business task force. Some community working group members are also on that task force, but we also have other businesses that help provide us feedback, particularly on materials, how the program is built, and what our criteria is, and how we intend to implement the program. So we met with them several months ago, and they are really critical at helping us with some surveys that we've been developing. Let's see, do I have the surveys that I do? Just a quick refresher on who is on the task force. It's made up of a lot of business groups, chamber groups, community groups, wide range of businesses throughout the project area. It also has some staff from some of our elected offices as well, so that we can keep them informed. So we've been working on a survey to help engage small businesses along the corridor. So that's where that data collection effort has been really important over the last couple months. We want to be asking small businesses about the types of things that they need, how their business operates, how do people travel to their businesses, when do they operate, is there interest in the program and services as I've kind of laid out for you all. So get some kind of initial feedback from them. And then we have a second survey for our community-based organizations to ask them if they have capacity to partner with us, to work alongside us to help deliver some of these services. So we're going to have 2 surveys coming out in the next summer or fall timeframe. And then lastly, we've also been developing kind of a tool or map to help visualize the program. So this is still very much a work in process. It's a draft, but we want to have a tool so businesses or members of the public can see where the program is operating. So areas in blue are areas that may be receiving some of those marketing or eShop local services or local resource network services. And the areas in green are those anticipated areas that may be closer to some of the major construction activities. So we know this map is not perfect right now. We've already gotten feedback from our small business task force to look at some areas that are or are not on it. I'll get to you, John, in 1 second. We also want to be transparent and show the community where our truck hauling activities are occurring on here. As some businesses along those routes may see increases in truck traffic, so we want to make sure that they have potentially some participation opportunity in the program as well. John.
Thanks for the graphics. I think we all like graphics. The only reason I brought up if there had been a change in where the portal was based on this graphic. I mean, I looked at that, and the color where it says, the number 2 under the legend, phase 2 ground level alignment.
Yes.
In the Santa Clara Station area, how close it is to 880. I thought, oh boy, it's going to be above ground right there on the extension of Hamline Street. Well, it's not. So, maybe you could improve your graphic and move the thing, put it to scale and not just less artsy fartsy and more to scale.
I like that. Sometimes we confuse people when we put the portal on our maps. It's, for you all that are really clued into the project, we can talk about that place where the trains come out of the ground or enter the ground, but for some people that's, we kind of have to educate them on what that is. So that's kind of that transition zone, if you will, but you can we could be more accurate. Yeah. Also want to point out that this is just a static map. We also intend to have a map that you can zoom into much closer and see the project features in much more detail and where businesses are located and what businesses are participating in the program.
Well, nonetheless, that is
It's good feedback.
Based on even where you're putting in your bathtub, that graphic is not accurate. So it would be nice to move it a little bit farther.
Greg's probably cringing that I called the launch structure a bathtub.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a pretty good analogy that people can kind of picture this U underground, right? So.
Yeah. So if you could move it farther on.
Really deep bathtub that you're really just leaning back in. And
yeah, if you could
waterproof.
Exactly.
Just go farther northwest and be appreciated.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the map?
All right, folks online, don't forget to use the raise hand function to speak or type it into the chat. All right.
Okay, take it away, Nan.
All right, we'll be closing out this meeting today with a few updates on some upcoming board of directors meetings and BSV oversight committee meetings. So if you really want to get an update for folks who don't typically join or have not been super plugged into the meeting, you can join the next June 5th board meeting, which will provide an update. If you are super plugged in and you're really just looking to see what sort of direction the project is going to go, June 27th will be a good meeting for you to tune in. There will be some board action in regards to the contracting task force. So with that, any questions,
We have
comments?
another
Yeah,
community
what's-
working group meeting.
Exactly, what's the date?
Great question.
We have some, the official one for me, open to the public will be in September. If there are any interim meetings in between, we will absolutely reach out and let you know in advance.
Based on all that's happening, we likely will have another one, we just don't have the date.
Okay.
In between.
Okay.
Or reversing.
Yeah, do you have any specific question about that, or are you looking for anything?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
Like,
Don't make
put 'em-
any summer plans.
I like to put them on my calendar, so
Yeah,
that's why.
no.
well, once we make it official, we'll send out the invite ASAP.
I think we can get the September one out if it's not on people's calendars shortly after the meeting, and then we'll work to see if we need an interim meeting in the next week or two. Because there are some big decisions the board will be making, and I want to make sure you all are included into those. Would anyone be opposed to those just being a hybrid or just a virtual meeting or an interim meeting, at least for this group?
I think we've done polling in the past and decided there would be hybrid meetings, but the in-person portion would be in our
The
office.
option, yeah. Just wanted to double check. Thanks.
So just for clarity for folks online, the interim meetings are typically for just the CWG members. We host them because there are major updates that we need to get to them as soon as possible, and for them to then spread that information when necessary with members of the public. But official meetings for you all to join who are not CWG members will continue in September. Any comments or questions about that? All right. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn our meeting. Thank you all for joining today. Have a good rest of your week.
Sounds like.
We're still given the alignment, by the way. Looking at the